Hedera Hashgraph, also referred to by its token symbol HBAR, was founded here in Dallas, Texas in 2018 by Dr. Lehman Baird and Mance Harmon. And apart from having a really cool name, Hedera Hashgraph, it's one of the few distributed ledger technologies that is not a blockchain. Well, what do you mean it's not a blockchain? When you hear a word crypto or token, most of us probably immediately think of a blockchain because it just became such a common and recognizable term that we just use it left and right. But in reality, blockchain is just one of the varieties of the distributed ledger technologies, and distributed ledger technology is the whole concept that blockchain is built upon. But the reason people use blockchain in their terminology when they talk about distributed ledger technology is because it's the most widely adopted one and it's been existing already for over a decade. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, those are all examples of a blockchain. And even though many people put Hedera in the same pile, it's not exactly the same because it's built on a different distributed ledger technology such as Hashgraph DLT, and sometimes it's referred to as DAG or directed acyclic graph. But don't let yourself be confused with these terms, because if you look up the types of DLTs, sometimes it will pop up like Hashgraph is a separate one and DAG is a separate one. But in reality, Hashgraph is just a type of DAG. So they're very similar, but sometimes they can be referred to as two different types of technology. And I'll try my best to explain DAG/Hashgraph, but before I do that, let me remind you about a blockchain. In a blockchain, the transactions are recorded in blocks, and hence the term blockchain. So blockchain is a chain or a sequence of blocks that are added on top of each other, and next block contains new transactions information as well as history about all the previous transactions that happened on the blockchain. And that's why transaction validation on the blockchain requires creation of a new block, and that takes up a lot of time sometimes. Hedera is using what's called gossip about gossip with virtual voting consensus mechanism, and it's quite different from a blockchain. So let me try to explain. Let's imagine that we have 8 nodes, for example, because in reality there are way more nodes, but for the simplicity of this example, let's stick with 8. Let's say that Alice, one of the node operators, wants to initiate a transaction, and she puts it in a message and sends that message to other random node. Like in our case, let's say she sends the message to Dave. So now both Alice and Dave have that message, and they know about that message. Now Alice and Dave send this message to 2 other random nodes. So now we have 4 nodes that know about the message. And then these 4 nodes send messages to other 4 random nodes. So we basically go from 1 to 2 nodes to 4 nodes to 8 nodes, and it grows exponentially like this. Now let's say that Bob and Carol wants to add their transactions to the network, and they also put it in a message and send it to random nodes. And now they send it to other random nodes, and it grows again exponentially from here. But how do we know how to fairly put these messages in the correct order on the network? Well, when one message is delivered across the network, what happens is the network identifies the median timestamp, and that median timestamp says that half of the network received that message, meaning that they came to a consensus. And then we take all the median timestamps for all the messages across the network, and we put them in the correct order. And each of these messages, or circles in our case, have the following data. We have the transaction data, we have the timestamp, we have the digital signature, and we also have 2 hashes for received message and for the sent message. So now we have the whole picture of all the messages sent and received by all these different nodes, and we can store this graph on every node. That way every node has the information about who talked to each other, what time they talked to each other, and what did they talk about. And that's why it's called gossip over gossip, because we know when everybody gossiped about all these messages. And since we know when they talked to each other and how many messages were delivered, we know that they came to a consensus. And that means that it is correctly put into the correct order on the network, and there is no need for them to send separate messages to confirm their voting. That's why it's called virtual voting. And since there is no need to create another block to come to a consensus, the speed is only limited by the internet bandwidth of these node operators. And it also does not require a lot of energy, because the hardware that runs these nodes can be very simple and very little energy consuming. And to better understand it, let's take a look at this graph provided by Hedera itself. Compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin, Hedera can process a lot more transactions per second, up to 10,000 plus transactions per second at the moment, and Bitcoin can process only 3 transactions per second. And Ethereum can process 12 transactions per second. And I gotta mention that this is before sharding. And sharding has not been introduced yet, but it is in the plans of Hedera to introduce sharding. But before that happens, there are 26 council member nodes right now, but the spot's available at 39, so I'm not sure exactly if they're waiting to fill up all the governing nodes first, because these are the 39 governing nodes. And that is because these governing nodes, according to the white paper, are supposed to form one shard. And after that, it's going to be available to the public to set up their own nodes, and they're probably going to introduce some sort of sharding structure as well. Another advantage of Hedera compared to the blockchains is because it has the fixed transaction cost, and the cost is always going to be equivalent to 0.00001 cent. And it doesn't matter whether the price of HBAR token is going to go up or down, the cost is always going to be fixed and equivalent to this amount of USD. And it's also very cost effective and less energy consuming than any other blockchain, because the single transaction on Hedera network only consumes 0.000017 kilowatt hour, which is a lot of reduction compared to over 800 kilowatt hour per transaction on Bitcoin, and about 0.03 kilowatt hour on Ethereum now that they switched to proof of stake. Hedera is powered by the HBAR token, which is the native token to the network, and you can use it for the same type of operations that you can use other tokens on other networks, such as transferring your crypto from one wallet to another, or executing the smart contracts, and so on. Hedera is owned and governed by the governing council that consists of the world-leading corporations such as Boeing, IBM, LG, and Google. And currently there are 26 governing nodes, and as I've already mentioned a little bit earlier, there are 39 node spots available, and I think they need to be all filled up, but let's see what happens. But that raises the question whether Hedera is really decentralized or not, but it's probably going to be a topic for a different video. But the good news is, I don't know if this is going to happen after all the 39 governing council spots are going to be filled up or not, but eventually it's going to be available for the public to set up their own nodes, and that is going to make it a little bit more decentralized than it is right now, in my opinion. All the way up to 2019, Hashgraph used to be a patented technology, and it was owned by Swirls, which is the company founded by the same founders as Hedera founders. But in 2019, the patent was transferred from Swirls to Hedera, and the code base was made open source. Now that means that the patent is not needed anymore, and everybody in the community can contribute to the development of Hedera Hashgraph. So now that hopefully you know how it works and a little bit of history, let's talk about how it can provide economic value, also known as utility, because I think this is one of the most important aspects of any crypto project. And Hedera in that aspect is very similar to any other blockchain service at the moment, except that it's built using the Hashgraph consensus mechanism. So the first service they provide is Hedera token service, meaning that anybody on the network can create their own token or their own NFT. And the NFT space is actually growing significantly fast right now on Hedera. The next one is consensus service that's built on the Hashgraph to store any event logs such as ownership information, transfer of ownership, intellectual property rights, medical records, and any other identification, etc. And the last one is contract service that can be built on Hedera Hashgraph using the most popular coding language such as Solidity. But the other significant thing that makes Hedera stand out for me as well is as for another crypto project that I was talking about earlier, which was Quant, and if you didn't see that video, you can check it out, is that it is also ISO 222 compliant. And ISO 222 is the new messaging standard for the actual banks to transfer messages from one bank to another. It's already accepted in most of the banks in Europe, but soon most of the banks around the world are also going to be switching to ISO 222 standard, because it's a new way for the banks to communicate with each other, and that's a messaging protocol that is going to be used based on XML. Now, if you would like to invest in Hedera, and by the way, this is not a financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor, I just provide you with facts, and then it's up to you to make a decision whether you wanted to invest or not. But if you would like to invest, here's the place where you can invest in Hedera. That would be Binance, but probably not the best for the US market. And then you have KuCoin, Crypto.com, and now, which is why the reason Hedera has been pumping recently, is the Coinbase, because now more users get access to Hedera. Probably the news about it pumped it a little bit, and then the fact that somebody on Coinbase got access and they started investing also pumped it a little bit. It kind of retracted, but still that was great news, because now you're able to purchase Hedera on Coinbase. However, if you invest significant amount of money, as I mentioned in all of my videos, it's best to not keep it on Coinbase or any other centralized exchange. It's better to purchase a cold wallet such as Ledger and transfer all your tokens over there, because this is the most secure way to keep your crypto safe. But in order for your Ledger wallet to support Hedera, it's not a very straightforward process where you just set up an app and then you set up a Hedera account. It requires a little bit of work where you set up your hot wallet extension on your Chrome browser and then you connect it to your Ledger wallet. So if this is something that you're interested in, check out one of my next videos where I'm going to show you how you can do that. And that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video and got a little bit of understanding what Hedera is all about and how it compares to other blockchains such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, and how it compares to the blockchain technology in general. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up to help YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more stuff like this, please subscribe to my channel down below. And I'll see you all guys in the next one.